Welcome to Red Story. Subscribe to the channel and don't forget to leave a comment. After I left a voicemail from my wife Ashley, whom I'd been married to for 5 years, I glanced at my phone one more time. I had just closed a huge service deal with a major company out here in California, one with offices across the country. I knew my boss, Kevin Hunt, would be thrilled. This contract spelled growth for our IT firm and a solid bump in my salary. Maybe now, I thought, Ashley and I could start that family we'd always talked about. As I stood in the lobby of the sleek office tower where the client meeting had taken place, a small swell of pride rose in me. I could practically picture the new life we have. Maybe a bigger apartment or perhaps a starter home in the backyard. I even imagined where a nursery might go. I joked with Ashley a week ago about painting a future baby's room bright yellow to keep it gender neutral. She laughed and insisted on something more refined, like a soft gray. That memory was sweet, but it clashed partially with the uneasy feeling currently settling in my stomach. But something was gnawing at me. Ever since I got back from a recent camping trip with Kevin, Ashley hadn't been herself. She seemed off, distant, and snapped at me over the smallest things. It wasn't just her mood right after I got home. I was throwing some laundry in and noticed something odd on her underwear. It had a strange texture and a strong scent I couldn't ignore. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut, and I felt my world start to unravel. That camping trip had been a treat Kevin suggested. We went up to some lakeside retreat, pitched tents, and talked shop around a campfire. Kevin was always bragging about how nature clears the mind. He tried to bond with me in a fatherly way, or so I thought, sharing stories from his past. I found it odd at times, especially when he pointed out I might be away from home a lot more if I got certain promotions. I wondered if that was just him testing me or something else altogether. In hindsight, certain jokes he made about me trusting him more than anyone else echoed in my head. Funny how those remarks could have multiple meanings I never caught at the time. Desperate to get to the truth, I decided to meet with an attorney before heading back out to the West Coast. If Ashley had betrayed me, I knew there'd be no going back. I reached out to a lawyer, Nicole Hammond, a specialist in family law and divorce recommended by a friend who had gone through a messy split himself. I remember sitting in Nicole's waiting room, flipping through a magazine without really reading it. My foot tapped incessantly, nerves jangling. It felt surreal. Just a day ago, I was finalizing a contract that might elevate my career to the next level. Now I was about to see if my marriage was beyond saving. I heard distant phone calls from Nicole's paralegal scheduling depositions for other clients, and it sank in that I was stepping into a world of legal battles that I never believed would involve me. "Are you sure Ashley's cheating on you?" Nicole asked as I explained my suspicions. "Not 100%, I admitted, but I need to know. If she has, I want a divorce." Saying those words felt like tasting something bitter, like I had to accept the possibility that my wife was truly unfaithful. At the same time, I felt grim determination. If she was crossing that line, I wouldn't stay married to her out of denial. "Divorces here don't typically assign fault," Nicole explained. "You could file for infidelity, but you'd need solid proof. Photographs, videos, that kind of thing." "What exactly would I need?" I asked, feeling a pang of dread. "An investigator could find out for sure if you'd like," she said. I nodded, and she offered to arrange it. "Since you both earn about the same and you don't own property or have kids, it'll be a straightforward split. If infidelity is proven, we can use that to secure a more favorable outcome for you." "All right, let's do it," I agreed. "I'll be gone for about 3 days, so maybe that's when it'll happen." At that moment, I tried to calm the storm of heartbreak swirling inside me. The idea of actively gathering evidence of my wife's betrayal felt disgusting, but what else could I do? If I confronted her with only suspicions and she denied it, we'd be stuck in a cycle of blame and deflection. I needed clarity. She contacted her investigator, Mark Simmons, who suggested I add a tracking app to Ashley's phone and even offered a device to record our landline calls along with a small audio recorder for her purse. I hated resorting to this, but I needed to know. Mark was matter of fact, telling me he'd done hundreds of these cases. "You wouldn't believe how often the spouse is right about their gut feeling," he said. I felt a twisted sense of relief that I wasn't alone. Also sadness that this was so common. People betray each other all the time. Mark added, handing me the device. "Let's just hope you're wrong." I prayed he was right. I wanted so badly to be wrong. As days went by, even Kevin started acting differently, like he knew something I didn't. It only made my gut churn harder. Finally, the day came. Ashley drove me to the airport, kissed me goodbye, and I promised to call that evening. When I did, she surprised me by mentioning she'd be waitressing at a party Kevin was hosting. One of his regular servers was out, and he'd asked Ashley to cover, even offering her $150 for the night. Okay, but be careful, I said, trying to sound casual. Just tell me about it tomorrow. Sure, she replied. You know I love you, right? I love you too, Ashley, I said, hanging up with a knot forming in my stomach. I tried to keep my voice light, but my mind was reeling. Why would Kevin ask her to wait tables at his event? Seemed out of left field. She had no formal waitressing experience in high society gatherings as far as I knew. Then again, maybe Kevin was just being nice, offering extra cash. But the whole scenario felt off, like a puzzle piece forcing itself into the bigger picture of my suspicions. Right after, I called Mark to let him know where she'd be that night. We'll keep an eye on her and update you, he assured me. The next day, I tried calling Ashley's cell, but there was no answer. I called her landline, again just a machine. Telling myself she couldn't have spent the night at Kevin's, I pushed through the day until an email came from Mark. Ashley spent the night at Kevin's place and is still there. He attached photos, ones I won't forget anytime soon. She hadn't just been with Kevin. There were two other men, guys I used to call friends. My hands started shaking as I stared at those pictures, hardly able to breathe, let alone think. The photos showed more than just arms around her waist. They showed explicit acts, the kind that made me feel physically ill. My coworker, a man I'd had beers with, now intimately involved with my wife. Another friend, the same one who once joked about couple swapping, apparently not joking. And Kevin, the man I looked up to as a mentor. My entire support system shattered in still images. I tried calling her again only to get her voicemail, so I headed down to the hotel bar to drown my anger. By morning, I checked the tracker, and sure enough, her phone was still at Kevin's. Mark's follow-up email confirmed it, with more pictures showing her with a large group that included Kevin's son, Jacob, and several employees from Kevin's IT team. There were others I didn't even recognize, probably friends of Jacob's. I felt sick to my core. Mark's voicemail spelled it out. Adam, I'm sorry, but it's worse than you suspected. She's not just with Kevin alone. This is some kind of group situation at his house. I know it's brutal to hear. I'd listened, heart-pounding, thinking, how could she do this? With the contract signed, I packed up, checked out of the hotel, and caught an early flight home. When I arrived, Ashley's car was gone, so I went inside to change. I called Nicole, and her receptionist said she'd be able to see me that afternoon. When Ashley finally picked up her phone, she sounded a little breathless. Hey, it's me, I said, trying to keep my tone even. Where are you? I'm at home, she replied, sounding composed, just wrapping up a few things before classes start. I bit down on my frustration. All right, well, I'm finished out here in California and on my way back. Oh, okay, she responded, her tone soft. I miss you so much. Call me when you land and I'll come pick you up at the airport. No need, I replied. I'll just grab a taxi. I hung up, noting how I hadn't told her I loved her or said anything about looking forward to seeing her. She probably noticed. Slumping into the airport lounge seat, I stared at the phone. She must have realized my mood was off, but apparently she wasn't pressing me about it. Maybe that's because she'd assumed she still had me wrapped around her finger or that her secret was safe. Part of me wanted to scream at her, let her know I knew everything. Another part said to stay calm, gather my wits, finalize the divorce path. I chose the latter, if only to keep from losing my sanity. With a sigh, I left the house to visit Nicole. Meanwhile, I imagined Ashley looking at her phone, confused. Normally, I ended every call by telling her I loved her, but not this time, and my voice probably sounded more distant than usual. She'd initially planned to come home after that first night, but lying between Kevin and his son felt too enticing to leave. She convinced herself it would all end when classes resumed, that I'd never know, so she stayed another night, welcoming Kevin back when he got home from work to find her with his son Jacob on his bed. Kevin just smirked and said, maybe I should send your husband on trips more often. You know I have classes starting soon, she said, chuckling as if this whole thing was a game. I'll be tied up next week. I never do anything with him around. Why not? Kevin teased. Maybe he'd like to see what real men do. Kevin and Jacob laughed, clearly pleased with themselves. She said, I had a great time, but I don't want to hurt Adam. I still love him. Well, maybe I'll make sure he's gone for another weekend. Kevin suggested, then you can come visit us again. It does sound fun. She replied with a smirk, but at some point he'll find out. Adam is not an idiot. Kevin shrugged and picked up a video camera. Don't worry, I'll take care of Adam. But here's the thing, I don't want you with him anymore. You're ours now, got it? All right, she muttered. I'll think of something. Reading the transcripts of these conversations later, I felt like I was reading a twisted soap opera script. The callousness with which Kevin treated me, like an obstacle to be managed, burned a hole in my chest. The casual mention of humiliating me as though they believed I was powerless awakened a righteous fury in me. I'd never truly known betrayal until that moment. And just like that, Ashley turned into someone I didn't recognize, enjoying attention from Kevin's friends and colleagues like she was at some twisted party. When I finally saw all the evidence Mark collected, it hit me hard. There were photos, even 2 DVDs of her with multiple men doing things she'd never do with me watching. It was like I was staring at a stranger, unrecognizable in her actions and choices. In one chilling moment, I spotted her smiling for the camera, as if proud. That smile, I realized, was the same smile she used to give me after a romantic dinner. Now it was plastered on her face in an act of total disrespect. I had to pause the video, physically ill. How could she degrade everything we built for cheap thrills with these men? Nicole tried to offer some consolation, but it was clear there was no going back. Why would she do this? I muttered, still shocked by the betrayal after 5 years together. And Kevin, too. Someone I thought was a friend. I recalled how, in the early days of my career, Kevin took me under his wing. He taught me about the business, taught me how to close deals and manage client relationships. I told Ashley he was a role model, maybe even an older brother figure. Now the disgust I felt was immeasurable. We'll proceed with the divorce and cite infidelity, Nicole confirmed. I can also file a lawsuit for alienation of affection against Kevin and the others. It may not go far, but we could get a decent settlement. Do what you have to, I said, my voice hollow. Just keep it together, all right? Nicole warned. Don't go doing anything you regret. I won't, I assured her. But I'm done here. I can't work for Kevin anymore. I can't be around him with those guys. I left her office, each step feeling heavier as I walked to my car. In the driver's seat, I just gripped the wheel, fighting the urge to smash my fists against something. Instead, I took a deep breath, letting the idea sink in. My entire professional life was also about to change. Kevin was my boss. I'd have to leave that job, but that seemed like a small price to pay for my dignity. I left Nicole's office, sat in my car, and scrolled through my contacts until I found Lucas Nelson's number, the CEO of Empire, a company that had been trying to recruit me. Out of loyalty to Kevin, I turned him down. Now that loyalty was gone. Lucas here, he answered. Lucas, it's Adam, I said. Adam, it's been a while, he replied warmly. How are things? Could be better. I admitted. Is that opening still available at Empire? Of course it is, Lucas replied. Have you finally decided to join a respectable team? Yeah, something like that, I said, holding back the full truth. Let's just say I've realized I can't stay where I am. I'm sorry to hear that. Anything I can do. Just give me a job, I told him. I'll give you everything I gave Kevin and more. No problem, Lucas said. Why don't you and Ashley come over tonight for dinner? My wife Megan makes a lasagna to die for. We can catch up and I'll go over the offer details. I'd love to, but I won't be bringing Ashley, I said, my tone turning serious. Oh, he paused. Everything all right? I'd rather explain in person, Lucas, I replied. It's complicated. All right, he said, clearly concerned. Well, Megan's a certified counselor if you need to talk. She might help. That actually sounds good, I replied, grateful. Come around 6:30, Lucas suggested. I'll see you then, I said, ending the call, feeling a sliver of relief for the first time in days. Sure enough, that night at 6:30, I was at Lucas and Megan Nelson's two-story house. I brought a bottle of wine. Lucas opened the door with a welcoming smile and took the wine. Come on in, Adam. Thanks for bringing this, he said. It'll go perfectly with dinner. He led me into the dining room where Megan was setting the table. Adam, meet my wife, Megan. Megan, this is Adam Ford, our new operations manager. Nice to meet you, Adam, she said warmly. Please call me Megan. Mrs. Nelson sounds too formal. We took our seats and Megan served her lasagna while Lucas poured the wine. The food was incredible, and I told her, "This is the best lasagna I've ever had." She laughed. "I'm glad you like it." It was surreal to enjoy such a homely, comfortable meal while my personal life imploded. But the warmth of this couple reminded me that not all was lost in the world. Some people respected loyalty and empathy rather than abusing them. After some small talk, Lucas gave me a curious look. "So, what made you decide to leave Kevin's firm so suddenly?" I hesitated, but then told him everything. By the time I finished, Lucas shook his head, looking genuinely shocked. "Unbelievable," he said. "I'm sorry, Adam. Something similar happened to me once, but not under these circumstances. Besides taking this job, what's next?" "I filed for divorce," I admitted. "My lawyer says it should be straightforward, given the circumstances." Megan looked at me sympathetically. "Have you considered counseling?" I shook my head. "It's gone too far. I don't even know who she is anymore." She suggested, "I'd be glad to talk with you if you're open to it." I nodded. "I'd appreciate that." We wrapped up dinner, and Lucas took me to his office to go over my new role over a glass of brandy. By the time we finished, I felt more in control of my life than ever. Shaking Lucas's hand, I thanked him and drove home. When I arrived around 10 p.m., I saw Ashley's car parked outside. Inside, the house was quiet. She was in the living room, eyes puffy from crying. Without a word, I went into my home office and locked the door, pulling up the recordings from her phone calls. Hearing her unraveling panic as she spoke with Kevin made me feel both vindicated and sick. I forwarded the file to Nicole, then called her. "Mason," she answered, "I just got your email. I'm finalizing your documents now. When can they be submitted?" "I want them delivered later today, if possible," I said, eager to close the chapter. She agreed. Meanwhile, Ashley texted me, "Can we talk?" I need to explain. I ignored it. At some point, she appeared in the doorway of the office, timid. "Adam, please, can we talk about this?" "There's nothing to talk about," I said coldly. "I've seen the photos, the videos. I've heard your calls. I know it all." She collapsed against the wall, sobbing. I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything," I replied. "We're done." That single moment sealed everything. I'd heard stories of couples reconciling even after infidelity, but this was too massive, too orchestrated, too humiliating. She had joined Kevin's twisted circle. There was no turning back. The next morning, a courier arrived with divorce papers. Ashley, eyes swollen from tears, signed them, shoulders trembling. I stood by with a numb feeling as the courier left, forging a new reality for us both. "I loved you," she whispered. "I still do." "Don't lie," I said, voice hollow. "This was never love." 3 months later, the divorce was final, the settlement hammered out, and Ashley moved in with her parents. Kevin tried to threaten me with calls, but I had already recorded everything. He ended up losing most of his clients, facing lawsuits of his own. Word got around about him, and people wanted no part of his scandalous behavior. My new position under Lucas blossomed, and with therapy from Megan, I gradually shed the rage and betrayal I'd been carrying. Megan's counseling sessions were tough at first. I'd break down, reliving the moment I saw those photos of Ashley with men I thought were my colleagues. But slowly, I started seeing that none of it was my fault. Ashley's choices were her own, shaped by temptations and a lack of moral lines. Kevin was a manipulative boss. I was just their unsuspecting victim. Over time, I began to reclaim my sense of self-worth. As for Ashley, rumor had it she tried to make amends, even telling her parents a watered-down version of events. But I refused further contact. We had no property or kids to tie us together, so once the papers were signed, that was that. In the end, I realized I was free from lies and from a woman who betrayed me in the worst way. It hurt, but I discovered a new path, forging success in my career and personal life. Some wounds never fully heal, but I learned you can survive them, grow stronger, and you can find reason to hope again. Now, whenever I pass a campsite sign or see an advertisement for business retreats, I feel a jolt of memory about that camping trip, how Kevin tricked me into trusting him, how Ashley sank into an unthinkable betrayal. But each day, that memory fades a little. One day, I might share my story with someone new, someone who deserves my loyalty, who can return it without deception. Until then, I move forward with my new life, letting the past remain exactly that, the past.